I just can't seem to figure out why we're struggling so much with ants these days. The only logical reason I can think of is our pets. You see, they tend to eat some of their food and then leave the rest for later. And that leftover food quickly turns into an ant magnet. So in this video, I'm going to try and come up with a solution to this problem. After doing a bit of research, I came across a couple of potential solutions. The first solution was to buy a pet bowl with a small water channel around the bowl. The idea here is the ants wouldn't be willing to cross this water to get to the food. We did end up buying one of these pet bowls, but I think the inventors seriously underestimated South African ants, because these ants crossed this water without even taking a break, Chatler close style. The second problem and the deal breaker is the fact that these bowls tend to get very messy. So every time you try and refill these pet bowls, you tend up spilling some of the water, and it becomes quite an annoyance. Option B was to surround the pet bowls with ant poison. But for obvious reasons that would not work, so let's undo that one. Then I remembered a video I saw a time ago about a guy who tried to prevent snails from getting to his pot plants. His invention was surprisingly simple. He wrapped these pots with 2 strips of copper wire and connected the copper wire to a 9-volt battery. So the idea here is, if a snail crosses the first copper wire and then touches the second, the snail will complete the circuit, which gives the snail a small electrical shock. The idea here is not to kill the snail, but the snail will immediately turn around and not proceed to attempt to eat the pot plants. And that got me thinking, this idea might work surprisingly well with ants as well. The only problem here is to get the 2 conductors close enough to one another that the ant might cross both conductors and close the circuit. But that sounds like a fun engineering challenge. So let's put on our engineering caps and see if we can come up with a solution. Now we're going to create a simple drawing for planning purposes. So let's make a stand to elevate the dog bowls. Instead of wrapping a pot plant with copper wire, we are going to wrap the stand's 4 individual legs. In this next clip, I'll try and explain the concept of the legs with the copper wire. So we'll wrap 2 copper wires around the leg and then connect these wires to a 9-volt battery. Let me also add a more polished version of this design. And so we're off to the good part, creating our first 3D model. Instead of explaining exactly what I'm going to do, I'm rather going to put up a lo-fi beat. So sit back, relax, and watch me work some magic. Printing in 3, 2, 1. The 3D printed legs are done and they're looking so good. Now we can start to wind the coils. What we'll do next is to wind the copper wire around these legs. We're going to use communication cable. This is solid copper core cables. And you'll see once we wrap it around the legs, these copper wire will fit neatly in the 2 channels we've created. We'll then take the wire, push it through these holes on both sides, and that way most of the cable will sit neatly inside the leg. I must say, I'm extremely pleased with this result, and I think this copper wire definitely elevates the look of this 3D printed model, something to keep in mind for future projects. Now for the real test. If this design works as intended, then these two pairs of wires should not be making contact with one another right now. It should only be making contact once the ant crosses these two channels. So I've got my multimeter set up, and this is going to test if there's any connection between the 2 points. Let's see. Success! I'll be repeating this another 3 times, but I'll be saving you the time and the pain. Now let's go over this very basic circuit design. So for the purpose of this demonstration, these 4 circles will represent the legs and the copper wire that's wrapped around the legs. In the middle we've got a 9-volt battery, which will be connected to a switch that runs through a potentiometer. The purpose of this potentiometer is to adjust the voltage going to the coils. Remember, we don't want to kill the ants, we just want to deter them from stealing our pet food. At this point now, our circuit is ready, we've got our components, and we're ready to do some planning to create a case for these components. This is the most satisfying part of any print, flexing the bolt plate and revealing the print. With all the individual pieces now ready, the only thing left to do is the final assembly. But you know, nothing is final until I get the approval of the two ladies in charge. I think it's safe to say I got approval from both. Now they just need to learn to stay at their pet bowls when they eat. But that's a video for another day. So I guess the burning question on everyone's mind is, did the solution actually work? Well, I'm happy to report back that our ant problem is a thing of the past, but not because of the reason you might think. You see, as soon as I started working on this project, for some weird reason the ants started retreating as well, as if they were monitoring what I was doing. So to definitively say whether this worked or not, I guess I'll have to report back on this in a future video. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was my very first YouTube video I created, and I poured a lot of time and love into making this video. So if you enjoyed watching this video, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. One project done, and we're on to the next.